The grease from tonight's burger special is still under my fingernails when I hear her laugh through the kitchen window. That sound used to make me smile. Now it cuts through me like broken glass dragged across concrete. My wife Laura is out there in our driveway at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, talking to someone on her phone, and she's using that breathy giggle she used to save for me. I'm Jason Mitchell, and 6 months ago I thought I knew what rock bottom looked like. That was before I learned the difference between losing your business and losing your soul. The dive bar where I work nights smells like stale beer and broken dreams. Frankie's place sits on the wrong side of Millbrook, our post-industrial New England city where the old textile mills got converted into overpriced condos that nobody from the neighborhood can afford. I've been slinging burgers and wiping down sticky tables here since my construction company went under 2 years ago. "Another coffee, Jason?" asked Mrs. Eleanor Voss, sliding her empty cup across the counter. She's been coming in every Tuesday for months, always sits at the same stool, always tips exactly 100%. Strange old bird with silver hair and eyes that seem to see right through you. "Coming right up, Mrs. Voss." I pour from the pot that's been sitting on the burner since dinner rush. "How's that big house treating you?" She lives alone in the Victorian mansion up on Elm Street, the kind of place that makes you wonder what stories those walls could tell. "Oh, you know how it is. Too many rooms, too many memories." She studies my face with those sharp eyes. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Same stubborn jaw, same way of carrying hurt around like it's precious cargo." I force a laugh. Hurt's about all I can afford these days. That's when my phone buzzes. Text from Laura. "Working late again, don't wait up." Working late, right. At 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. Laura's a lawyer at Brennan Kessler and Associates downtown, and she's been working late a lot lately. Ever since she made senior associate and started wearing those expensive suits that cost more than I make in a month. Mrs. Voss follows my eyes to the phone. "Marriage is like a house, dear. When the foundation starts cracking, you can either fix it or watch it fall down around you. What if the other person's the one swinging the sledgehammer?" She leaves a 20 on a $6 tab and pats my hand with fingers that feel like old paper. Sometimes the best revenge is building something better from the rubble. I'm still thinking about that when I get home to find Laura's car gone and a hotel keycard on the kitchen counter next to her gym bag, the Marriott downtown, room 412. She must have dropped it when she was grabbing her things. My daughters Beth and Janie are asleep upstairs, 12 and 8 years old, and they still believe their parents love each other. I want to keep it that way as long as possible, but secrets have a way of eating families alive from the inside. I should go to bed. I should pretend I never saw that key card. I should trust my wife of 15 years. Instead, I grab my keys. The Marriott lobby is all marble and soft lighting, the kind of place that charges $20 for a sandwich and makes you feel grateful for the privilege. I park across the street in my rusted pickup truck and wait. At 12:30 a.m., I see her. Laura walks out of the elevator wearing the black dress I bought her for our anniversary last year. She's not alone. Scott Brennan, her boss's son, recently divorced, drives a BMW that costs more than most people's houses. Mid-40s, silver at the temples, the kind of guy who wears cologne that probably costs more per ounce than my hourly wage. He's got his hand on the small of her back, guiding her toward the bar like he owns her. I sit there in my truck, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles turn white. Part of me wants to march in there and make a scene. Part of me wants to drive home and pretend this never happened. But there's a third part. A dark little voice that's been growing stronger since my business failed, since I started feeling like a stranger in my own house. That voice says, "Wait, watch, learn." So I wait. They have drinks. They laugh. Scott touches her arm, her shoulder, her face. Laura leans into him like she's drowning, and he's the only life preserver in the ocean. At 1:15, they get back in the elevator together. I wait another hour, then follow Scott out to the parking garage. His BMW sits under a fluorescent light, pristine and perfect. I take my house key and drag it along the driver's side, leaving a deep scratch from headlight to tail light. Then I write a note on the back of a receipt. Hope she's worth the deductible. Petty? Absolutely. But sometimes petty is all you've got left. The next morning, Laura comes down to breakfast wearing yesterday's clothes and a guilty expression. She kisses my forehead like nothing happened. Makes coffee like she didn't just spend the night destroying our marriage one-room service order at a time. "How was work?" I ask. "Oh, the Henderson case is keeping everyone busy." She doesn't meet my eyes. "Scott thinks we might need to put in some weekend hours." Scott thinks a lot of things, doesn't he? Now she looks at me, and for just a second, I see fear flicker across her face. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, just making conversation. But it's not nothing, and we both know it. Something has shifted between us. Some invisible line has been crossed. Laura can feel it even if she can't name it. My phone buzzes. Text from an unknown number. Someone keyed my car last night. Hotel security is reviewing footage. If you know anything about this, we should talk. Scott. I show Laura the message. Looks like your colleague had some car trouble. She reads it twice, her face going pale. Jason, you didn't what? Key some a-hole's car because he's sleeping with my wife? I pour myself another cup of coffee, nice and casual. That would be crazy, right? I mean, what kind of evidence would I have for something like that? Laura stares at me like she's seeing a stranger. Maybe she is. Maybe I am too. That evening, she sends me a text. We need to talk. Now. Laura wants to meet at Romano's, the Italian place where we had our first date 16 years ago. Neutral ground, she calls it. Like we're negotiating a ceasefire instead of discussing the end of our marriage. She's already there when I arrive, sitting in a corner booth, still wearing her work clothes. The black suit that makes her look like she could buy and sell the whole restaurant. Maybe she can now. Thank you for coming, she says as I slide into the seat across from her. Wouldn't miss it. Not every day your wife asks for a formal meeting to discuss her affair. Laura flinches. It's not. It's complicated, Jason. Complicated. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. You know what's complicated? Trying to explain to our daughters why mommy's never home anymore. Trying to pay the mortgage on what I make slinging hash at Frankie's while you're playing house with Scott Brennan. You don't understand. When your business failed, when we lost everything, you just gave up. You stopped fighting for us, for our future. Scott, he sees potential in me. He believes in me. I see. So this is my fault. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Laura? Because from where I sit, it looks like you decided our marriage was a sinking ship and Scott was your lifeboat. She reaches across the table, tries to take my hand. I pull away. I never meant for this to happen, but I can't keep pretending everything is okay. I can't keep living a lie. Living a lie. I lean back in the booth, study her face. She's beautiful, my wife, always has been. But there's something cold in her eyes now, something calculating. How long? What? How long have you been sleeping with him? Jason, how long, Laura? She looks down at her hands. 3 months. 3 months. While I was working double shifts to keep our house. While I was helping Janie with her homework and driving Beth to soccer practice. While I was trying to hold our family together with duct tape and determination. I want a divorce, she says quietly. I figured. What about the girls? Joint custody, of course, but I think it would be better if you moved out just temporarily until we can work out the details. Better for who? For everyone. The girls are already asking questions. It would be less confusing if Daddy disappeared so you and Scott can play happy family. It's not like that. But it is like that, and we both know it. Laura has made her choice. She's chosen the man with money and prospects over the man who used to make her laugh until she cried. She's chosen the future over the past. I'll need time to find a place, I say. Of course, take all the time you need. All the time I need. How generous. How magnanimous of her to give me time to pack up the wreckage of my life and move it somewhere else. That night, I sleep in the guest room. Laura doesn't come home until after midnight, and when she does, she smells like Scott's cologne. In the morning, I start looking for an apartment I can afford on a bartender's salary. I find a one-bedroom above the hardware store on Mill Street, the kind of place where the heat doesn't work, and the neighbors play music until 3 a.m. But it's mine. Or at least it will be once I scrape together first month's rent and a security deposit. Mrs. Voss comes into Frankie's that Tuesday like always, orders her coffee black, tips her 100%. But tonight she seems different, more fragile somehow. You look tired, dear, she says. Wife wants a divorce. I'm moving out this weekend. I'm sorry to hear that. Endings are never easy, even when they're necessary. She stirs her coffee thoughtfully. You know, I was married once, long time ago. He was a good man, my Harold. Worked construction just like you used to. What happened to him? Cancer. Took him fast, which was a blessing, I suppose. She looks up at me with those sharp eyes. But before Harold, there was someone else. Someone I loved with everything I had. His family didn't approve of me, thought I wasn't good enough for their boy. They broke us up, sent him away. He married someone else, had children. I heard he died a few years back. I'm sorry. Don't be. That's just life, isn't it? We make our choices and then we live with them. She finishes her coffee and stands to go. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who end up regretting it the most. That weekend, I move into my new apartment. Beth and Janie help me carry boxes, their faces solemn and confused. They don't understand why Daddy has to live somewhere else now, why Mommy cries when she thinks no one is looking. Is this because of us? Beth asks as we're setting up my new bedroom. No, sweetheart, this is because grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes have consequences. Are you and Mom getting divorced? I could lie. I could tell her everything will be fine, that this is just temporary. But Beth is 12, old enough to see through comfortable lies. Yeah, we probably are. She nods like she expected this answer. Will you still be our dad? Always. No matter what happens between your mom and me, you and Janie will always be the best thing I ever did. That night, alone in my new apartment, I sit on my secondhand couch and drink a beer that tastes like failure. Through the thin walls, I can hear my neighbors arguing about money, about who forgot to pay the electric bill, about all the small betrayals that add up to a life. My phone buzzes. Text from Laura. Girls are asking when you're coming home. What should I tell them? I start to type a dozen different responses, delete them all. Finally, I settle on. Tell them the truth. But what is the truth? That their mother fell in love with someone else? That their father wasn't man enough to keep his family together? That sometimes love isn't enough? That sometimes people change? That sometimes the fairy tale ends with everyone going their separate ways? The truth is, I don't know what the truth is anymore. 3 weeks into my new life as a part-time father and full-time failure, Laura and Scott make their public debut at Beth's school science fair. They walk in together, Scott's hand on Laura's back, both of them smiling like they're posing for a magazine spread about successful couples. I'm standing by the refreshment table, ladling punch and trying to blend into the background when they make their entrance. Every conversation in the room stops. Every eye turns their way. Laura Mitchell recently separated with her new boyfriend. The gossip mill of Millbrook Elementary kicks into overdrive. Jason. Scott approaches me with his hand extended like we're old friends meeting at a reunion. Good to see you. I look at his hand, then at his face. He's got that practice smile, the one that probably closes million-dollar deals and charms juries. But there's something nervous in his eyes, something that tells me he remembers the keyed car, remembers my message. Scott. I don't take his hand. How's the BMW? His smile falters just a bit. Got it fixed. Insurance covered most of it. That's good. Hate to see a man's pride and joy get damaged. Laura appears at his elbow wearing a dress that costs more than my monthly rent. Jason, you look... She searches for the right word. Tired. Working 2 jobs will do that, but I'm sure you wouldn't know anything about that. The barb hits home. Laura's face flushes, and she glances around to see who might be listening. Everyone, as it turns out. The parents of Millbrook Elementary are getting quite a show tonight. Maybe we should focus on the kids, Scott says diplomatically. Great idea. Where are they, by the way? Oh, that's right. They're with me every other weekend and Wednesday nights. The rest of the time, they're with Mom and her friend. Now Scott's getting annoyed. Good. Look, Jason, I understand this is difficult for you. Difficult? I laugh loud enough that heads turn. You think this is difficult? Scott, you have no idea what difficult looks like. Difficult is explaining to your 8-year-old why Mommy doesn't live with Daddy anymore. Difficult is working at a dive bar to pay child support while your wife parades around with the man who helped destroy your marriage. That's enough. Laura's voice is sharp, embarrassed. You're making a scene. Am I? Because it seems to me like you two made the scene. I'm just providing commentary. Beth appears at my side, tugging on my sleeve. Dad, people are staring. I look down at my daughter, see the worry in her eyes, and suddenly I feel ashamed. This isn't her fault. None of this is her fault. You're right, sweetheart. Let's go look at your project. As we walk away, I hear Scott say to Laura, maybe we should go. But they don't go. They stay for the whole event, playing the happy couple, accepting congratulations from people who don't know the whole story. And I stay too, playing the gracious ex-husband, pretending my heart isn't breaking every time I see them together. Later that night, Frankie finds me sitting at the bar after closing, nursing a whiskey and staring at nothing. Rough night? He asks. Frankie DeMarco is 72 years old and has owned this place for 40 years. He's seen every kind of human misery walk through his doors. And he's got the wisdom that comes from watching people at their worst and somehow still believing in their capacity for better. You could say that. Want to talk about it? So I tell him about the science fair, about Laura and Scott, about the way everyone looked at me like I was the neighborhood charity case. Frankie listens without judgment, occasionally refilling my glass. You know what your problem is, Jason? Enlighten me. You're fighting their fight. They want you to be the bitter ex-husband, the guy who can't let go. Every time you take the bait, every time you make a scene, you're playing the role they wrote for you. So what am I supposed to do? Just smile and wave while they destroy everything I worked for? No, you're supposed to write your own story. Frankie leans across the bar, his eyes serious. You want to beat them? Stop playing defense. Start playing offense. What does that mean? It means stop reacting to what they do and start making them react to what you do. It means remembering that the best revenge isn't getting mad. It's getting even. I think about that as I walk home through the empty streets of Millbrook. The old mills loom against the night sky like sleeping giants, reminders of a time when this city meant something, when people built things that lasted. Now it's all chain stores and fast food and people like Scott Brennan who make money by moving other people's money around. But maybe Frankie's right. Maybe it's time to stop being the sufferer in this story and start being the author. Mrs. Voss doesn't come in for her Tuesday coffee or the Tuesday after that. I ask around, but nobody seems to know anything. The Victorian house on Elm Street sits dark and quiet, newspapers piling up on the front porch. On Thursday, a man in an expensive suit walks into Frankie's during the lunch rush. He's got the look of someone who bills by the hour and never has to worry about making rent. Are you Jason Mitchell? He asks. Depends who's asking. He hands me a business card. Richard Caldwell, attorney for the estate of Eleanor Voss. I need to speak with you privately. My blood goes cold. Is she... I'm afraid Mrs. Voss passed away in her sleep Tuesday night. I'm sorry for your loss. I knew her for less than 6 months, but the news hits me harder than I expected. She was the only person in my life who seemed to see something in me worth saving. What did you want to talk about? Perhaps we could step outside? We sit in his Mercedes, air conditioning running, classical music playing softly. Caldwell opens a briefcase and pulls out a thick folder. Mrs. Voss left specific instructions regarding her estate. The house, the investments, the artwork, it's all been left to you, Mr. Mitchell. I stare at him. That's impossible. I barely knew her. According to her will, you reminded her of someone very important to her, someone she loved very much. He hands me a sealed envelope. She wanted you to have this. Inside the envelope is a photograph and a letter. The photograph shows a young man in work clothes standing next to a half-built house. He's got dark hair, strong shoulders, and a stubborn jaw. He looks exactly like me. The letter is written in Mrs. Voss's careful handwriting. Dear Jason, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably very confused. The man in the photograph is Thomas Mitchell, your grandfather. We were engaged to be married in 1952, but his family disapproved of our relationship. They sent him away, told him I had married someone else. I never saw him again. I heard he moved to California, married, had children. Your father was one of those children. Thomas died 5 years ago, but I kept track of his family. When you moved to Millbrook, I knew immediately who you were. You have his eyes, his stubborn streak, his good heart. I never had children of my own. Harold and I tried for years, but it wasn't meant to be, so I'm leaving everything to you, the grandson of the only man I ever truly loved. Use it wisely. Use it to build something better from the rubble of what came before. All my love, Eleanor. Caldwell is watching me read, his expression carefully neutral. The estate is valued at approximately $43 million. The house alone is worth $8 million. There are also stocks, bonds, artwork, and a considerable amount of cash. $43 million. I make $18,000 a year slinging burgers and cleaning tables. This is more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Mrs. Voss was very specific. She also left instructions for the transfer of funds. Everything should be available to you within 30 days. I sit there in his Mercedes, holding the photograph of my grandfather, trying to process what this means. Yesterday, I was Jason Mitchell, Failed businessman, divorced father, part-time bartender. Today I'm Jason Mitchell, millionaire. But I don't tell anyone. Not Laura, not the girls, not even Frankie. I go back to work, back to my crappy apartment, back to my life as if nothing has changed. Because nothing has changed. Not yet. But it will. Oh, it will. That night I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, planning. For the first time since my business failed, since Laura asked for a divorce, since my life fell apart, I feel something I'd almost forgotten. Hope. But not the kind of hope that waits for things to get better. The kind of hope that makes things better. The kind of hope that builds something new from the ashes of something old. The kind of hope that gets revenge. The first thing I do with my newfound wealth is nothing. For 2 weeks, I keep working at Frankie's, keep living in my crappy apartment, keep playing the role of the down-on-his-luck ex-husband. But now I'm watching Laura and Scott differently. Now I'm taking notes. Laura's routine is predictable. Gym at 6 a.m., office by 8, lunch at that pretentious bistro on Main Street, back to the office until 6 or 7, then either home to the girls or out with Scott. Weekends are for Scott, except when she has the girls, which she treats like an obligation rather than a joy. Scott's routine is even more predictable. He drives his replacement BMW to the same gym Laura goes to, works out for exactly 45 minutes, then heads to his office in his father's law firm. Lunch at the country club, back to the office, then either drinks with clients or time with Laura. He's got a condo in the converted Mill District, the kind of place that screams midlife crisis with its exposed brick and industrial fixtures. I start following them, not stalking exactly, just observing, learning their patterns, their weaknesses, their pressure points, and I discover something interesting. They're not as happy as they pretend to be. I'm sitting in my truck outside the gym one morning when I see them argue. Laura storms out. Scott follows, grabs her arm. She shakes him off, gets in her car, drives away. Scott stands there in the parking lot looking like a man who's just realized his trophy might be more trouble than it's worth. That afternoon, I make my first move. I walk into Brennan, Kessler, and Associates wearing my best shirt and my only tie. The receptionist, a young woman with bored eyes and perfect nails, barely looks up. "I'm here to see Scott Brennan," I tell her. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell him Jason Mitchell is here. He'll see me." 5 minutes later, Scott appears in the lobby. He's wearing a $1,000 suit and a nervous expression. "Jason, this is unexpected. I was in the neighborhood, thought we should talk." He leads me back to his office, which is all mahogany and leather and windows that look out over the city. The kind of office that says I'm important in a dozen different languages. "What can I do for you?" he asks, settling behind his desk. "You can stop sleeping with my wife." Scott's face goes red. "Ex-wife. And what Laura and I do is none of your business." "Actually, it is my business. See, Laura and I aren't divorced yet. We're separated, which means she's still my wife, legally speaking. And you're still the guy who's been screwing her for the past 4 months. I don't know what you want me to say." "I don't want you to say anything. I want you to listen." I lean forward in my chair. "I know about the hotel rooms. I know about the weekend trips. I know about the credit card you gave her, the one she uses to buy clothes and jewelry and all the other things that make her feel special." Scott's face has gone from red to pale. "How do you know about that?" "Because I pay attention, Scott. Because while you two were playing house, I was watching, learning, taking notes. What do you want?" "Right now, nothing. But that could change. See, I'm not the same guy I was 6 months ago. I'm not the broken-down contractor who was grateful for whatever scraps fell from your table. I'm something different now, something you should be worried about." I stand up, straighten my tie. "Give Laura my regards. Tell her I said hello." And that evening, Laura calls me. She's angry, which is exactly what I wanted. "What the hell did you say to Scott?" "We just had a friendly conversation." "Why?" "He said you threatened him." "Did I? I don't remember threatening anyone. I just explained how things are going to be from now on." "Jason, whatever you think you're doing..." "I'm not thinking anything, Laura. I'm doing. There's a difference." She hangs up on me. 20 minutes later, she calls back. "I want to see you. Tonight." "I'm working." "After work then, this can't wait." We meet at the parking lot behind Frankie's. Laura's car is a new Lexus, probably a gift from Scott. She gets out wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looks younger this way, more like the woman I married. "You need to stop this," she says. Stop what? Whatever game you're playing, Scott is talking about getting a restraining order. On what grounds? I haven't threatened him. I haven't touched him. I just had a conversation. You're scaring him. Good. Maybe he should be scared. Maybe you should be too. Laura stares at me like she's seeing a stranger. What happened to you? You happened to me. You and Scott and this whole damn mess you created. You want to know what happened to me? I woke up. I realized that being the good guy, being the understanding ex-husband, being the better man, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is winning. This isn't a game, Jason. This is our life, the girl's life. You should have thought about that before you started screwing your boss's son. She slaps me, hard. The sound echoes off the brick walls of the alley. I touch my cheek, smile. Feel better? I hate you. No, you don't. You hate yourself. You hate what you've become. You hate that you threw away 15 years of marriage for a guy who drives a BMW and wears expensive suits. You hate that deep down you know you made a mistake. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time Scott made you laugh? Really laugh, not that fake social laugh you do at parties. When's the last time he held you when you were scared or stayed up all night when one of the girls was sick or made you feel like you were the most important person in the world? Laura's eyes fill with tears. For a moment, I see the woman I fell in love with, the woman who used to dance in the kitchen while making dinner, who used to leave little notes in my lunchbox. It's too late, she whispers. Maybe. But it doesn't have to be too late for the girls. It doesn't have to be too late for you to do the right thing. What do you want from me? I want you to remember who you used to be. Before the money, before Scott, before you decided that being happy wasn't enough. She wipes her eyes, straightens her shoulders. The moment of vulnerability passes. I can't go back, Jason. I won't go back. Then we have nothing left to talk about. She gets in her car and drives away, leaving me alone in the alley with my anger and my plans and my $43 million that she doesn't know about yet. But she will. Soon enough, she will. The call comes on a Wednesday morning while I'm opening Frankie's. Richard Caldwell, Mrs. Voss's lawyer, sounds excited. The estate has been settled, Mr. Mitchell. All assets have been transferred to your name. You're officially a very wealthy man. How wealthy? The final tally came to $47 million. Some of Mrs. Voss's investments performed better than expected. $47 million. I own the Victorian mansion on Elm Street, a portfolio of stocks and bonds, 3 rental properties, and enough cash to buy and sell half the people in this town. There's one more thing, Caldwell says. Mrs. Voss left specific instructions about discretion. She was very concerned about people who might try to take advantage of your good fortune. She suggested you keep this information private until you're ready to use it strategically. Smart woman, even from beyond the grave. That afternoon, I drive to Elm Street and walk through my new house. It's like stepping into a museum. Original hardwood floors, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings that are probably worth more than most people make in a year. Mrs. Voss had exquisite taste and the money to indulge it. In the master bedroom, I find a safe hidden behind a portrait of my grandfather. Inside are more photographs, letters, and a journal that Mrs. Voss kept for 60 years. I spend hours reading about her life, her regrets, her dreams. She never stopped loving Thomas Mitchell, my grandfather. Never stopped wondering what might have been. The last entry is dated a week before she died. I saw Jason at the diner tonight. He looked so much like Thomas at that age, so lost and angry. His wife is destroying him the same way Thomas's family destroyed us. But Jason has something Thomas didn't have. He has a chance to fight back. I hope he takes it. I hope he makes them pay for what they've done. I close the journal and look around the room that's now mine. Mrs. Voss wanted me to have this chance, this power. She wanted me to succeed where my grandfather failed. I won't let her down. That evening, I'm working at Frankie's when Scott walks in. He's nervous, keeps looking around like he's expecting an ambush. He sits at the end of the bar, orders a scotch, doesn't say anything for 10 minutes. Finally, we need to talk. I'm working. After you close, then. I don't think so, Scott. You and I have nothing to discuss. Actually, we do. He pulls out his phone, shows me a photo. It's me, sitting in my truck outside his condo building. This is called stalking, Jason. It's illegal. I look at the photo, then at Scott. Is that your truck? What? The truck in the photo, is it yours? No, it's... Then how do you know it's me? Could be anybody sitting in that truck. Could be a private investigator, could be someone you owe money to, could be someone whose wife you're screwing. Scott's face goes red. I'm warning you. You're warning me? I laugh. Scott, you have no idea who you're dealing with. You think I'm some broken down loser who's going to roll over and let you steal my family? You think I'm going to just disappear so you and Laura can live happily ever after? What I think is that you're a sad, bitter man who can't accept that his marriage is over. I pour myself a drink, take my time with it. You know what's funny, Scott? You think you won. You think you got the prize. But Laura isn't a prize. She's a woman who threw away 15 years of marriage because she was bored. What makes you think she won't do the same thing to you? Because I can give her things you never could. Like what? Money? Status? A BMW? I shake my head. You're not giving her anything, Scott. You're buying her. There's a difference. At least I can afford to buy her. What can you offer? A life of slinging hash and living paycheck to paycheck? You'd be surprised what I can offer. Something in my tone makes him pause. What's that supposed to mean? It means things change, Scott. People change. Circumstances change. The guy you think you're dealing with? He doesn't exist anymore. Scott finishes his drink, throws a 20 on the bar. Stay away from me, Jason. Stay away from Laura. And stay away from my building. Or what? Or you'll find out what happens when you mess with people who have real power. After he leaves, Frankie comes over, starts wiping down glasses. Friend of yours? He asks. Something like that. He seems nervous. He should be. The next morning, I make a phone call to a private investigator named Maria Santos. She's expensive, discreet, and very good at her job. I hire her to dig into Scott Brennan's life, his finances, his history. If I'm going to destroy him, I need to know everything. 3 days later, she calls back. Your boy Scott has some interesting secrets, she says. You want to meet? We meet at a coffee shop downtown. Maria slides a thick folder across the table. Scott Brennan, age 46, divorced, one child he never sees. He's got a gambling problem, owes money to some very unpleasant people. He's been skimming from client accounts to cover his debts. His father doesn't know, but it's only a matter of time. How much money? About 200,000 so far? He's good at covering his tracks, but not that good. I flip through the folder. Bank records, casino receipts, photographs of Scott meeting with men who look like they break kneecaps for a living. There's more, Maria says. He's been married 3 times. First wife divorced him for cheating. Second wife divorced him for gambling. Third wife divorced him for both. What about Laura? Does she know any of this? Doubtful. He's been very careful to keep his problems separate from his relationship with her. I close the folder. Think about what this means. Scott Brennan isn't the successful, stable man Laura thinks she's getting. He's a liar, a thief, and a gambling dependent who's one bad bet away from losing everything. But I'm not going to tell Laura that, not yet. First, I'm going to let Scott dig himself a little deeper. Then I'm going to bury him in the hole he's created. Good work, I tell Maria. Keep watching him. I want to know everything he does, everyone he talks to, every move he makes. This is going to get expensive. I smile. Don't worry about the money. I can afford it. 2 weeks later, everything comes to a head at Beth's soccer game. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, the kind of day that makes you believe in second chances and new beginnings. Laura and Scott are sitting together in the bleachers, playing the happy couple for all the other parents to see. I'm standing on the sideline, cheering for Beth, when I hear Scott's voice behind me. Nice turnout, he says. I turn around. He's wearing khakis and a polo shirt, trying to look like suburban dad material. But I can see the stress in his eyes, the way his hands shake slightly when he thinks no one is looking. The gambling debts are getting to him. Yeah, Beth loves having people watch her play. She's a good kid. Both your girls are. They are. I'd do anything for them. I'm sure you would. Scott moves closer, lowers his voice. Look, Jason, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Laura and we're serious about each other. This isn't some fling. We're talking about getting married after your divorce is final. Married? I nod like this is interesting news. That's a big step. You sure you're ready for that kind of commitment? I mean, given your track record. Scott's face hardens. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just that marriage is a big responsibility. Financial responsibility. You sure you can handle that? I do just fine financially. Do you? Because from what I hear, you've got some pretty expensive hobbies. Now Scott looks worried. I don't know what you think you know. I know you owe Vincent Torino $40,000. I know you've been skimming from client accounts to pay your gambling debts. I know your father would disown you if he found out what you've been doing. Scott goes pale. You're bluffing. Am I? You want to find out? I pull out my phone, show him a photo of him leaving the casino downtown. This was taken last Tuesday night. You lost $8,000 on blackjack. Money you don't have. How did you get this information? I told you, Scott. I'm not the same guy I was 6 months ago. I'm not the broken-down contractor who was grateful for scraps. I'm someone you should have left alone. Scott looks around, making sure no one can hear us. What do you want? I want you to disappear. I want you to break up with Laura, quit your job, leave town. I want you to get the hell out of my family's life. And if I don't, and your father gets a very interesting folder of documents showing how you've been stealing from his clients. Then Vincent Torino gets a tip about where to find you. Then Laura gets to see what kind of man she's really been sleeping with. Scott stares at me like he's seeing a monster. Maybe he is. Maybe that's what I've become. You can't prove anything. Can't I? I show him another photo, this one of him meeting with one of Torino's collectors. Bank records, casino surveillance, witness statements. I've got everything, Scott, everything. This is blackmail. No, this is consequences. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. The game ends. Beth's team wins, and she runs over to hug me. Laura and Scott approach, Laura smiling, Scott looking like he's about to throw up. Great game, sweetheart, Laura says, hugging Beth. We're all so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Beth looks up at Scott. Did you see my goal? I did. It was amazing. Scott's voice sounds strained, but he manages a smile. We should celebrate, Laura says. How about lunch at Romano's? Actually, Scott says, I need to get going, work stuff. Laura looks disappointed. On Saturday? Big case, you understand. He kisses her cheek, nods at me, walks away. I watch him go, knowing this is probably the last time I'll see him with my family. That evening, Laura calls me. Something's wrong with Scott, she says. He's been acting strange all week. Distant. Worried about something. Maybe he's having second thoughts. About what? About us. About the divorce. About breaking up a family. That's not it. This is something else. Something's bothering him. I could tell her the truth. I could explain about the gambling, the debts, the stolen money, but that would be too easy, too quick. I want Scott to suffer the way I suffered. I want him to squirm. I'm sure it's nothing, I tell her. Scott's a big boy. He can take care of himself. But Scott can't take care of himself. Over the next few days, I watch him fall apart. He stops going to the gym. He starts drinking at lunch. He snaps at colleagues, misses appointments, makes mistakes. Laura notices. She starts asking questions, pushing for answers. Scott gets defensive, then angry, then desperate. On Thursday night, he calls me. We need to meet, he says. No, we don't. Please, I'm begging you. We meet at a bar across town, the kind of place where nobody knows your name and nobody cares about your problems. Scott's already there when I arrive, 3 drinks ahead of me and looking like hell. You're destroying my life, he says. No, Scott, you destroyed your own life. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. What do you want? Money? I can pay you. With what? You're broke. Worse than broke. You're in debt to people who break legs for a living. Scott puts his head in his hands. I never meant for any of this to happen. Which part? Stealing from your clients? Gambling away your future or screwing my wife? I love her. No, you don't. You love what she represents. Success, stability. A way out of the hole you've dug for yourself. But love? You don't know what love is. And you do? I know what it isn't. It isn't lying. It isn't stealing. It isn't destroying someone else's family because you're too weak to fix your own problems. Scott looks up at me, his eyes red and desperate. What if I leave? What if I break up with Laura, quit my job, disappear? Will you leave me alone then? Maybe. Depends on how convincing your performance is. Performance? You need to make Laura believe it was her idea. You need to make her think she's better off without you. Can you do that? Scott nods miserably. When? Soon, this weekend. And Scott, make it good. Because if you don't, if you try to come back, if you even think about contacting her again, I'll destroy you. Completely. The next evening, Laura calls me crying. He broke up with me, she sobs. Scott broke up with me. What happened? He said he wasn't ready for a serious relationship. He said he needed space, needed to figure out his life. He said I deserved better. I'm sorry. Are you? Are you really sorry? Or are you happy that your plan worked? What plan? Don't play dumb, Jason. This has your fingerprints all over it. What did you do? What did you say to him? I didn't have to say anything. Scott showed his true colors all by himself. I don't believe you. Believe whatever you want, Laura, but ask yourself this. If Scott really loved you, if he really wanted to be with you, would anything I said or did have mattered? Would he have given up so easily? She hangs up on me, but I know she's thinking about what I said. She's wondering if maybe, just maybe, she made a mistake. 3 days later, Scott Brennan leaves town. He resigns from his father's law firm, sells his condo, pays off what debts he can, and disappears. I hear he moved to Florida, got a job with a small firm, started going to Gamblers Anonymous. Laura tries calling him, but his number's been disconnected. She drives to his condo, but it's empty. She goes to his office, but they tell her he's gone. No forwarding address. She's been abandoned, and she knows it. The man she threw away her marriage for, the man she thought was her future, turned out to be nothing more than a coward who ran at the first sign of trouble. Now she's alone. No husband, no boyfriend, just 2 confused daughters and a pile of regrets. But I'm not done with her yet. Not even close. With Scott gone, Laura tries to put her life back together. She throws herself into work, spends more time with the girls, even suggests we try counseling. But it's too late for that. The trust is broken. The damage is done, and I have other plans. I start making subtle changes to my life. Better clothes, a newer truck, small improvements that suggest things are looking up without being obvious about it. When people ask, I tell them I got a promotion at Frankie's, picked up some handyman work on the side. The truth is more complicated. I've quietly purchased 3 buildings in downtown Millbrook, including the one that houses Laura's law firm. I've bought stock in the country club where she likes to have lunch. I've become, without anyone knowing it, a significant player in the local economy. But I'm still sleeping in my crappy apartment, still working at Frankie's, still playing the role of the down-on-his-luck ex-husband. Because the best revenge isn't just winning, it's making sure your enemies know they've lost. The first crack in Laura's facade comes when her law firm starts having financial problems. Brennan, Kessler & Associates has been struggling since Scott left, and his father is asking uncomfortable questions about missing client funds. Laura, as Scott's former colleague and current girlfriend, finds herself under scrutiny. They're treating me like I was involved in whatever Scott was doing, she tells me during one of our awkward coffee meetings, like I knew about his problems. Did you? Of course not. If I had known he was gambling, stealing money. She trails off, the implications hitting her. God, Jason, what if I had married him? What if I had tied my future to his? But you didn't. Because he left me. Because he ran away like a coward. Laura stares into her coffee cup. You knew, didn't you? You knew what kind of man he was. I suspected. And you didn't tell me. Would you have believed me? She's quiet for a long moment. Probably not. People have to learn some lessons the hard way. The second crack comes when Laura realizes she can't afford the lifestyle Scott was subsidizing. The expensive dinners, the designer clothes, the new car, all of that was being paid for with money Scott didn't actually have. Now that he's gone, Laura is stuck with credit card bills she can't pay and a standard of living she can't maintain. She has to sell the Lexus, move to a smaller apartment, start shopping at discount stores instead of boutiques. The other lawyers' wives, who welcomed her when she was with Scott, suddenly have no time for her calls. I feel like such a fool, she admits during another coffee meeting. I thought I was trading up, you know? Better life, better future. But it was all fake. Scott was fake. Not all of it was fake. What do you mean? You're still a good lawyer. You're still a good mother. You're still the woman I fell in love with, underneath all the mistakes. Laura looks at me with something that might be hope. Do you think... Is there any chance we could try again? Maybe go slow? See if we can rebuild what we had? This is the moment I've been waiting for. The moment when Laura realizes what she's lost. When she wants to come back. When she's willing to beg for another chance. I don't think so, I tell her. Why not? Because you didn't just cheat on me, Laura. You didn't just have an affair. You made a choice. You looked at our life together, our 15 years of marriage, our 2 beautiful daughters, and you decided it wasn't enough. You decided I wasn't enough. I made a mistake. No, you made a decision. And decisions have consequences. Laura starts crying. Not the pretty, delicate tears of a woman who knows she looks good when she cries, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who's lost everything and knows it's her own fault. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix what's broken. Sorry doesn't give me back the nights I lay awake wondering what I did wrong. Sorry doesn't give our daughters back their intact family. So, what now? We just give up? We move forward, separately. We co-parent the girls, we be civil to each other, and we build new lives. What kind of life can I build? I'm 40 years old, I'm broke, I'm a laughingstock in this town. Everyone knows what I did, what happened with Scott. Then maybe it's time to leave town." Laura stares at me. "You want me to leave?" "I want you to do whatever makes you happy. But if staying here means being miserable, if it means the girls seeing their mother as a cautionary tale, then maybe a fresh start somewhere else would be better for everyone." That night, Laura calls me at home. "I've been thinking about what you said," she begins, "about leaving town. And there's a job opening in Portland. Corporate law, good salary, chance to start over. I could take the girls, get them away from all this gossip and drama. The girls live here, their friends are here, their father is here. You could visit, holidays, summers, we could make it work." "No." "No? The girls stay here, Laura. With me. You want to run away and start over? That's your choice. But you're not taking my daughters." "They're my daughters, too." "Are they? Because for the past 6 months, you've treated them like accessories. Something to show off when it's convenient, something to ignore when you had better things to do. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you helped Janie with her homework? When's the last time you went to one of Beth's games without Scott? When's the last time you put your daughters first instead of your own wants and needs?" Laura is quiet for a long time. Finally, "What are you saying?" "I'm saying if you want to leave town, go. But the girls stay with me. Full custody. You can visit when you want, call when you want, but their home is here. I can't just abandon my children." "You already did. I'm just making it official." The custody battle lasts 3 months. Laura fights, but her heart isn't in it. She knows she's lost more than just her marriage. She's lost her place in her daughters' lives. Lost their respect and trust. The judge awards me full custody, with Laura getting visitation rights. She takes the job in Portland, moves away, starts her new life. She calls the girls every week, visits every few months, sends birthday and Christmas presents. But she's not their mother anymore. Not really. She's the woman who used to be their mother, before she decided something else was more important. 6 months after Laura moves to Portland, I finally tell the girls the truth. Not about the affair, they're too young for that, but about our financial situation. "Dad," Beth says one evening as we're having dinner in our new house, the Victorian mansion on Elm Street that I've finally moved us into. "How can we afford all this?" Janie looks around the dining room with its crystal chandelier and oil paintings. "Yeah, and why didn't we live here before?" I put down my fork, look at my daughters. They're good kids, smart kids, and they deserve honesty. "Do you remember Mrs. Voss, the old lady who used to come into Frankie's?" They nod. "She died last year and left me some money, a lot of money, enough to buy this house and take care of us for the rest of our lives." "Why?" Janie asks. "Because I reminded her of someone she used to love, someone from her family." "Are we rich now?" Beth wants to know. "We're comfortable, but that doesn't change anything important. You still have to do your homework, clean your rooms, be respectful to others. Money doesn't make you a better person. It just gives you more choices. Is that why Mom left? Because we didn't have money then?" This is the question I've been dreading, the one I don't know how to answer without destroying their relationship with their mother completely. "Your mom left because she was unhappy. She thought she could find happiness somewhere else, with someone else. Sometimes adults make mistakes, big mistakes, and everyone has to live with the consequences." "Do you miss her?" Janie asks. "I miss the woman she used to be, the woman who was your mother before she decided to be someone else." That weekend, Laura comes to visit. It's awkward, seeing her in the house that could have been hers, watching her try to connect with daughters who are polite but distant. "This is quite a place," she says as I give her a tour. "When did you buy it?" "A few months ago." "Must have cost a fortune. How did you—" She stops, understanding dawning in her eyes. "You had money. When we were getting divorced, when Scott and I were together, you had money. Yes. How much? Enough. And you didn't tell me. Why would I? You'd made your choice. You decided I was a loser, that Scott was a better bet. What difference would it have made? Laura sinks into one of the antique chairs in the living room. It would have changed everything. Would it? Or would you have just tried to take half of it in the divorce? She doesn't answer, which is answer enough. You let me make a fool of myself, she says finally. You let me throw away our marriage for a man who turned out to be a fraud when all along you could have. Could have what? Bought you back? Proved I was worthy of your love by showing you my bank account? That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Laura, if money would have kept you from cheating, then you never loved me in the first place. You loved the idea of security, of status, of being taken care of, but you never loved me. That's not true. Then why did you leave? Why did you choose Scott over me? Because I thought he could give me a better life. There it is. You thought he could give you something I couldn't. You thought love wasn't enough, that our family wasn't enough, that I wasn't enough. And you know what? You were right. I wasn't enough for the woman you'd become, but I was more than enough for the woman you used to be. Laura starts crying again, but this time I don't feel sorry for her. This time I feel nothing but a cold satisfaction. I ruined everything, she whispers. Yes, you did. Is there any way to fix it? Any way to make this right? You could have asked me that question a year ago. You could have talked to me about whatever was making you unhappy, whatever was missing from our marriage. We could have worked on it together, but instead you decided to blow up our entire family for a man you barely knew. I was stupid. Yes, you were. But more than that, you were selfish. You put your own wants ahead of your family's needs. You put your own happiness ahead of your daughter's security. You made choices that hurt everyone who loved you. So what now? This is it? This is it. You made your bed, Laura. Now you get to sleep in it. After she leaves, Beth finds me in the study, looking through Mrs. Voss's photo albums. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. Do you still love Mom? I think about that question, really think about it. Do I love the woman who betrayed our family? Do I love the woman who chose another man over her husband and daughters? Do I love the woman who's sitting in a hotel room across town, crying over the life she threw away? I love the woman she used to be, I tell Beth. But that woman doesn't exist anymore. Will she ever come back, the woman she used to be? I don't know. People can change, but they have to want to change. They have to be willing to do the hard work of becoming better than they were. Do you think she wants to? I think she wants to, but wanting to want something isn't the same as actually wanting it. Beth nods like this makes sense to her, which maybe it does. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They see things clearly, without all the complications and rationalizations that adults use to justify their mistakes. That night, I sit in Mrs. Voss's study, my study now, and think about revenge. I got what I wanted. Laura lost everything. Her marriage, her boyfriend, her status, her daughters. She's alone in Portland, starting over at 40, paying for her mistakes every day. Scott lost everything too. His job, his family connections, his reputation. He's in Florida somewhere trying to rebuild his life from nothing. And me? I won. I kept my daughters, got my revenge, proved that the good guys can finish first if they're willing to play the game by different rules. So why don't I feel better? Why does victory taste like ashes in my mouth? Maybe because revenge isn't really about winning. It's about making sure everyone loses. And in the end, everyone did lose. Even me. Especially me. But I can live with that. I can live with being the villain in this story. Because sometimes the villain is the only one willing to make the hard choices. To do what needs to be done. Sometimes the villain is the hero, even if nobody else sees it that way.